Alrighty, Callie C here. And today we're talking about bulletproof confidence, how to get a job, how to ace a job interview. Something that may be basic, but also not, because not only are we in a time of our economy where it is tougher to get a job, but there's interviews everywhere you go, and you have to make sure that you pass the test. Either if you're a higher expert type of person that's trying to sell somebody on why they should do business with you, or whether you are starting out looking for a job and it's just been tough, or whether you're transitioning to another job, or whether you're upgrading to a new type of job, these are all basic principles that you can use and techniques in regardless of where you're at to sell people on you and why they should choose you to work for them. So let's start with the basics here. So what I've generated here is 13 rules, 13 steps, and I'll have it listed below of what you can do to ace a job interview. And again, it's not easy, but it's simple, but you got to put in the work. And once you do it, you will be happy that you've succeeded. So number one is you do want to use AI. You want to use some sort of LLM, some sort of GPT to help you generate a resume. Now, there's a resume and there's cover letters. Cover letters are extremely simple and they have templates. Back in the day, you would have had to go online and buy a template and fill it in yourself and make multiple templates of cover letters and resumes for different jobs. But nowadays, you can just simply plug in the information, just say, hey, create a template for me. This is the type of job I'm looking for. This is the this is my information, this is my job history, and you can plug all that information in, whether you're speaking to the LLM or you're typing it in, and it's going to gather all that information for you and organize it. And you can say, all right, so this is one resume for this type of job, and make sure that everything's relevant and that is helpful for this job versus this other job. Perhaps it needs a completely different resume based on certain jobs history in your past that you may have had that maybe is irrelevant for this job. But even if you don't have a lot of history, or if you do, either way, try to tweak it so it can look good for this type of resume. And after you have this resume, you now can create a PDF or just have it and copy and paste and put it into a Google Doc, or perhaps and from there you can turn it into a PDF to where you can customize it for that given job. So with LLMs nowadays, it does make it super easy with AI to create a resume and a cover letter. Back in the day, you would procrastinate, you would take forever to type it. If you're somebody like me, that's what I did. And nowadays, that's just not the case. It's so simple, so quick, so fast. So you've saved so much time and so much effort. Now, another thing you can do is you can go to the websites like Indeed.com, for example. You can create your resumes and your cover letters on the websites, on certain websites that help you get hired, and they will save your profile there so you don't have to do it multiple times, and it'll send it out to recruiters. So make sure you have your information handy so the recruiters can reach out to you, and that makes it super simple as well, as it's saved in their system. Third method, which I really like, but again, it's not guaranteed because they probably get this a lot, is you do want to go what's called business to business, B2B. Now, this is something that I've been doing. I have a background of door to door, and business to business, in my opinion, is much easier than door to door. Now, it's all a mindset thing, but what's easier for you, knocking on some random stranger's door or going into a business and talking to the manager or talking to somebody in the business? For me, I always exceeded in business to business. It was a lot easier for me than doing door to door. However, I've had much experience doing both. Now, for those who don't have that experience, trust me on this, business to business is super easy because you're walking into the store. You've walked into probably hundreds of stores in your lifetime, probably way more than you've ever knocked on someone's door. You're going to go in here and you're going to, you want to look nice, be presentable. You don't have to be wearing a suit and tie, but just look nice. Maybe a collared shirt like this, for example, and you want to talk to the manager or whoever it is. Say, hey, how are you? And just say, hey, my name's Colin. I'm just happened to walk by your store, and I was curious if you guys are hiring, and I wanted to give my number to the manager, or perhaps get their number, so I could just kind of see if it would be a good fit. And right away they're going to say one of three things. Yeah, for sure. What's your number? Or yeah, I'll give you their number. Or perhaps the owner doesn't give their number out, or you can go on the website, something like that. So what I would recommend in that case, be like, hey, no worries, I'll definitely go on the website. I totally understand. I'll send an email as well. But was also curious, when is the owner usually here? When do they usually work? So I can just pop by maybe on one of those days, just kind of introduce myself, say hi. Oh, they're usually here on like Tuesdays and Wednesdays and at 6 p.m. Okay, sure, sounds good. If I'm in the area, I'll just pop by, say hi. Nice to meet you. What was your name? Awesome, nice to meet you. Cool, I'm calling. See you later. Now, the reason why you don't want to just go for the email or give them your number is because they're not going to call you. They get a lot of information. They're busy, and what you want to do is you want to meet the owner straight face to face. And when you can do that, that's when you can have a conversation. You can have a face to the name. And that's way more successful than just going into a business and giving your number or emailing them. Now, they get lots of emails. They're likely not going to at all going to see that. I'm just being real with you. Now, you can send emails and play that game, but don't kid yourself. You're not going to get far with that. You want to find the owner face to face, okay? If you're going to go that method. And then at that point, you can get their number, or you can follow up again and say, hey, yeah, it's awesome. Can you keep a lookout for my email? Then when you send an email, you talk to the owner straight up. Now it's a higher chance of them seeing your email and your information or your text message. And then you can also follow up again on next week on a Tuesday or Thursday, whenever they're there, and say, hey, did you get my email? How are you? And just say, hey, how you been? How's your week? Awesome, cool. Show interest in them. Like, you're not just trying to get a job. You're there to actually show interest. And then at that point, you're like, that's awesome. Oh, by the way, I did send you an email. Did you happen to read it? My resume? Cool. Here's another tip. They don't really care about your resume. I'll be honest with you. They might care depending on the job, but they just want to care. They just want to see if they like you. At that point, if they like you, then they're going to look at your resume. Then they'll consider what's on that resume. But in reality, they want to care about you first. That's if you're doing a cold business to business approach. That's how you want to do it that way. Now, if you're doing the other approach, we're using Indeed and whatnot, and here's a very important thing that you need to understand. Fortune is in the follow-up. And the reason why I say that is because people just submit applications and that's it. And they expect that someone is just going to magically call them and say, wow, you had such a great resume. I just want to call you and just hire you. That's not really going to happen all the time unless your resume is great. But even still, it could be fabricated, right? So that's why you have an interview process. But here's the thing. Fortune is in the follow-up. My mom taught me this years ago, and I'm so eternally grateful for it because, you've heard probably squeaky wheel gets the grease. You've heard that a lot. You're like, what does that even mean? If your wheel keeps squeaking, you're going to grease it up. So stop squeaking. Sometimes people just bark, and they talk. And finally it's like, what do you want? Let me help you. Like, shut up, And a lot of people think that that's degrading, and it takes a lot of I'm not that type of person that's going to bug somebody and blow up their phone and stuff. But I'll tell you what, I hate to admit it, but it's true. You got to bug them. And the reality is you're not really bugging them. Like, you're getting their attention and you're standing out. And when they see that you're just constantly calling them, like let's be real here. Let's go over some rules so you don't just overdo it. There's a way to overdo it and there's a way to underdo it. But there is no perfect way. But if you're not bugging them, they forget about you. If you do bug them enough, get on their mind, they're going to think about you more often, and they're going to think to themselves, wow, this person really is consistent, and this person really is persistent, and they're also very interested in working here. Let's get this person in for a job interview. So what you want to do is call them. I would call them at least three times a week. Maybe on a Monday, maybe on a Thursday, maybe on a Friday, something like that, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and do that. And if it is in person, you do have access to the owner as well. Again, you can go in person, but if you don't have access to that, it's more of a corporate thing. Keep calling the number and keep saying, hey, have you guys had a chance to look at my interview or my application yet? I wanted to call up and see on the process of that. Wanted to see if I can get an interview set up because I submitted my application. If you want, I wouldn't suggest submitting your application multiple times unless for some reason you think that's beneficial. It really depends. There's so many different systems out there, but if you do happen to have an email, definitely you can send a couple of emails as well. If you have the time, you're gonna have to create a list, and as you're calling, I would just make it like, put it on speaker, and as you're calling them, send the email at the same time, just to make it easy for you, and or do it right before the phone call or right afterwards, just to kind of like bug them. And I know that this is the hard part, and this sounds like it's just a lot of work, but that's what you have to do. Fortune is in the follow-up. Now, I come from a sales background, and this is something that I've learned before I even knew sales, but this is why I'm sharing it with you, because this is how it works. Now, I'm going to give like a hypothetical scenario, but let's pretend you're going to submit 100 applications. That's going to turn into maybe 50 of them go through, which is going to turn into maybe 20 of them respond, and then out of the 20, maybe you have 5 of them that actually go to an interview, and out of those 5 interviews, you might get 1 or 2 jobs, positions, or offers. Now, the numbers aren't perfect, but that's kind of an idea. So you see that like just submitting just 1 job interview is not enough, because again, there's a 50% chance it's even going to go somewhere. What if that person's not there? What if they don't get it? I mean, there's too many variables that are unknowns that you don't want to rely on just sending 1 or 2 interviews and just like sniper shot. I hope I got the kill. It's not really going to work like that. You're going to have to machine gun it a little bit. Yes, you want to make sure every resume is specific, and that's easy to do with AI. You can just tweak each little, go in there and just recreate a new one each time. That's super easy. Just reopen the chat history and just recreate it, re-edit it, make sure everything looks good, and then download it or copy paste it to doc, create a new one, or just create a PDF real quick. I mean, nowadays it's super simple, but that's how the numbers look. Again, you're messaging, you're submitting 100, 50 of them might have gone through, 20 of them you might get a response. Out of those 20, you might only get 5 actual sit down interviews, and then out of those 5 interviews, you might get maybe 1 or 2 offers, and then within those 1 or 2 offers, it's still a low chance as well on whether you'll take it. Something could happen. So again, you might have to submit another 100, and then if you do the whole thing again times 2, and then now that equals 2 to 4 opportunities of possible choices. So that's the hard part that I think people mess up on. The average person is just submitting it and forgetting it, and it's just not going to work. So keep that in mind. Now, okay, once you do have the interview process, which is where we're at now, you have the interview process, you actually have it scheduled. I'm going to throw in a little bonus tip right now. If they do ask you when's a good time for a job interview, you don't want to just say anytime. Oh yeah, anytime, because that just shows that you don't have anything going on. The world works where people like abundance. They don't like scarcity. If it seems like you already are a professional, you already are working professional, you already have other jobs that you're working and doing, you're already busy, they're thinking, wow, this guy's busy, he's professional, he's successful, this is somebody that we want. But if it's somebody that, if you're like, oh, I just have a free schedule, I'm always free because I'm not successful, that's what they're going to think. And you don't want to portray that. I'm not saying you should lie ever, but I'm saying you always want to paint a picture of a perception towards the people you're talking to. You want to paint the perception a certain way. And you definitely don't want to paint the perception that you are just waiting for a job and you're looking for anything and everything. Even if it's true, you don't want them to know that. So if they ask you, when's a good time that you are free for an interview, key tip you can always do, yes, absolutely. And let's pretend you're on a phone call. Yes, absolutely, Sharon. 1 second. I need to check my schedule. 1 second. Mute the phone. Pretend like you're checking your schedule, or actually do it. Find a time where you're going to be mentally sharp. Don't set up a time that's like early in the morning, or perhaps when you're tired late at night. Has to be between 7 to 5 range anyway, probably. Now it depends on their schedule too. They may only have certain windows, so you might say, you know what, I'm actually busy at 7 a.m. I know you wanted to do a 7 a.m. interview. I am a little busy. I do have something at that important at that time. Is there any way we could do like 9 a.m.? Even if you feel like you're like, I really want this job, I don't want to mess it up, you have to pretend like you're busy. You do that One, you're getting a benefit of not having to wake up at 6 or 7 a.m. and being tired. Two, you get a little bit extra sleep, and you're also painting the perception to them that you're busy and you have other things going on. So they're going to say, you know what? Actually, yeah, we do have a 9 a.m. Or they might say, no, we actually don't. You say, look, hold on, let me just see if I can move stuff around 1 second. You can mute it again. Hey, maybe you could say, okay, is there any way we could find a time like that maybe next week? Now you're pushing it a week out. Ooh, now that's signaling to them that you don't need this job, that you can wait a week. Even if you're like, my bank account can't wait a week, you still want to possibly consider doing that. Now, if you can't absolutely wait a week, then you say, you know what? I was able to move something around. I could probably move it around. We could do 7. That works. Kind of be a little hesitant with it. Like you don't really want to do that, but you can do it. Cool. Sounds good. See you at 7. Zoom interview or in person, whatever it may be. Cool. Hang up. That's how you set your appointment with them. Cool. Now it's set. You're good. While you're on the phone, you can ask them some questions. Hey, quick question, just so I can better prepare for this interview. Where is it going to be? Just so I'm not like, I want to make sure I'm there on time. I don't want to be late. I want to make sure I get, the right parking, whatever. Ask them those questions up front. They're going to be, oh yeah, of course. Da, 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 da. Cool. Is there a number I can call just in case? If I need to reschedule or if I am lost, I could just call you. Yeah, it sounds good. Boom. So now you have a phone number. You can call them in case you get lost, because that's the worst, most embarrassing thing. If you show up to an office or something and you don't know which office, which room, you can just call them up. Show up 5 minutes early. If you don't know where it's at, give them a call. Hey, I'm here for the interview. Just need a little help on where it's at. Can't find it. Simple. Now you just helped yourself versus now you're showing up 20 minutes late. I'm so sorry, guys. I couldn't find the room. That's embarrassing. Okay? And that puts your adrenaline up for the interview. You don't need that. So that's how you prepare for that. If it's a Zoom interview, perfect. Hey, can I give you a number if I can call you before in case I'm having technical difficulties? I can just call you, and you can help me fix it or whatever if the Zoom link's not working. Yeah, sounds good. Cool. Like, set it up. It shows them that you're thinking ahead, and it also does protect you in case you are late. Or in case you're running late, you can call them, and now they understand. They're human. You just have to prepare. Otherwise, it's better than just not. And then now, look, you're on the wrong Zoom call. You're waiting for 10 minutes. No one's there. You're freaking out. They're getting upset. You have no one to talk to them. You email them. Hello, I can't. Are you there? Da, da, da. They're not getting the email because they're waiting on a different Zoom link, and it's just a whole big problem. So try to get like a personal phone number if you can. Try to prevent something like that from happening, so you can just call them and then be like, hey, it looks like I'm on the wrong Zoom link, or your Zoom link's not working. Okay, cool. Send me a new one. Easy. Fixed. Done. Okay? Okay, so now that we're in the interview, now what? When we're inside the interview, first things first is you have to build rapport. What is rapport? Such a weird word, right? But what it means is you're building a connection with them, and it has to be genuine, because at the end of the day, they're not robots, okay? There might be some AI interviews coming soon, and they might be looking for that, and they may not care about rapport, but ultimately, you need to build rapport. And because we're dealing with humans right now, at the moment, you have to build a connection, and you have to paint the picture that you know how to talk to people. And we're going to get into it in a second on how you can prepare how to build rapport, but let's just talk about what rapport is. One method you can use is called the STAR method. It's called the F.O.R.D method. Now with the F.O.R.D method, we have family for F, we have occupation, we have recreation, and then we have dreams. Now F.O.R.D, you can think about that because these are the 4 things that people usually care about, and you can just talk with anybody using these methods. Now going back to my advice here, if you want to prepare, how can I on the spot remember F.O.R.D? How do I remember that? What do they do what's their family, occupation, recreation, occupation, or dreams? Then that's what you would start to do is practice that on your off time. So when you're talking to somebody, maybe at church, or maybe it's at the store, or maybe it's just walking down your street, your neighbors, like try to talk with people and practice. Hey man, what do you like to do for fun? Hey, tell me about your family. How you doing, man? You got a lot of family living around here? You from Jacksonville? Where are you from? What do you do for work? These types of things. Like, tell me about your dreams. What are you working on? What do you like to do for fun? These are the things that you can ask people, which you may think is direct, but it's not. Like, people like questions. Most people like questions, and you can ask them what to do and practice. When you do this and you get good at that, when you get into the interview, you don't want to be the guy that's like, well, the weather's nice today. I mean, you can, but again, you want to stand out. So you want to have a good conversation, a good connection with these people. So think about it like, hey, I noticed some pictures and I walked in, or I noticed in the back of the Zoom call, you have a picture frame behind you. Is that your family? Tell me about that. I would love to. Is that your mom? What? That's cool. Is that your daughters? Awesome. Okay. Wait, so how long have you been working here? You ask them questions, and now that you're interested in the interviewer, and now they're like, wow, this person's actually doing a good job here, and you're demonstrating to them in the interview that you know what you're talking about because you know how to talk to people, and they're gonna take mental notes of that. So that's good. Make sure you build rapport first, and then the second step after rapport building is you want to make sure that you've done some research too. Okay, so while you're in the interview, you're going to be prepared with the top 5 questions that you think they're going to ask you. Now, before you even get into the interview, you should be researching your company on AI or the internet, and basically like, okay, if I'm interviewing at Publix or a sales company or an engineering company, like what are the top 5 questions that they're probably going to ask me to prove that I am that I know what I'm talking about, and that and they're also going to ask you about yourself too. And so you find out these questions. Like, for example, they might ask you, tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work with us? Give me some customer service scenarios that you've dealt with. And what about compliance? What have you done when there's a problem? How did you solve it? Tell me about managers or people that you've had problems with in the past. What did you do to work with them and solve it? Like, really specific questions they're going to ask you. And what I would do, and this is a method that you guys can apply, is called the STAR method. Now, this brings me to the next thing, which is this method allows you to answer these questions in a way that they recognize as like, oh my gosh, like it's a nice system. Like, for example, STAR, situation, task, action, and result. So you say, look, there was a situation that happened. This is the details of that. This is what I had to do. This is what they wanted us to do. This is what I did do to solve it. And then this is the result. And then they're like, wow, okay, cool. So like that's something that they can see that, okay, there was a problem, there was a situation. This is what needed to happen. These are the variables. This is what you did with that information. This is the result. And then so if you can come up with a few of those scenarios, depending on the role that you're dealing with. Like, for example, if you're doing something as simple as working at a grocery store, they're going to ask you, what happens, when's the scenario, what would you do if a customer comes at you and they're yelling at you? You don't want to say, well, I'm just going to yell at them back, or I'm just going to argue with them because I'm always right, or whatever, right? You would say something to the extent of like, yes, so if somebody came up to me, they were super upset, I would say, look, hey, my name's Colin, let me see if I can help you with this problem. Just want to let you know that I'm here to help you. Tell me more about it, show them you're listening. Maybe you can say, cool, so like I think that we can probably do this to solve it. Let's do it together. And then you do this, and then boom, and then now everything's solved. You brought a manager, whatever. Like, you come up with scenarios of your given task, your given job, whether it's engineering, whether it's doing sales, dealing with an angry customer on the phone or in person, and you figure out a way with the STAR method how to solve it. And then that right there is going to demonstrate that you understand a process, and they're going to be impressed. Now, if we move on, this is very important. When you're in an interview, don't just sit down and just listen and just let them ask you questions the whole time. There's something called frame control. Okay. Now, this is something that most people don't even know of, and they're not even aware of it. So this is high level. It's called frame control. Now, you got to control this frame because they're trying to control your frame, and you got to control their frame. So what you want to do right away is try to equal the playing field. They're going to possibly sit you down and they're going to stand up, which they're going to be looking above you and you're below them. They're going to try to ask you questions, and the one who asks the most questions is the one that's in the most control. I want you to understand that. The one who asks the questions is the one who is in control. So the more questions they ask you, they're putting you on the defense. if they're asking you questions, you're on the defense, you're trying to answer, why should we pick you? Why should, why should you work for us? Why would we want you to work for, like, whatever they ask you, they're putting you on the defense. You got to answer in a way that is skeptical. And a way to combat those types of frames is this is a whole nother class and course of itself. But first of all, you don't have to know every answer. So sometimes if you tell them, you know what, I don't know, it disarms them. And actually, you can take that time to think and take that time to answer the question. So if they say, why should we work for you? You say, you know what, I don't know. Like, I don't know why, I guess, why you should hire me. But what I can say is, like, I haven't really decided yet if this is a job that I even want to work for yet, because I'm really want to make sure you guys are aligned with what I want. But I would say, to answer your question, if I can find a job that aligns with my goals and something that can serve me and whatnot, if I did find that job that was a good fit, then I think that we would both be a good fit for each other, because I would bring this to the table, and I would be able to do this, I would be able to do this, and I would be able to do this, and of course, if I had the right job, right management, right people that cared about me, I would work hard for them, and I would do this. So now you see how you're flipping that. So instead of them saying, well, you should hire me because I'm a good hard worker and this and that, you're like, you know what, I don't know. Like, I think that if I could answer that question, like, I don't know if I would be a good fit for you guys. But I know that, like, because I got to still figure out if you guys are a good fit for me. But if you guys were a good fit, and this company was as nice and cool as they say they are, if you guys had good management, you took care of your employees, you guys listened to your employees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then I think that would inspire me to work hard, do this, show up early, do this. But it's like, if it's not even a good fit, then I probably wouldn't be a good fit. But if you know what I mean. So you kind of need to word it in a way where you're not just in the defense, but you're also not avoiding the question. You're answering, but you're also making it seem like, hey, like, I'm controlling the frame here. I'm not the one being interviewed. I'm interviewing you. Why should I work here? Why do you guys, why are you looking for new positions? Is this a high turnover rate? Do people enjoy themselves? What's the average length of employees that work here? Is it just like high turnover? Do they work here over a long period of time? Are they happy? Like, can I talk to other people and ask them their opinions of what they like? Like, you gotta flip it and be like, and really in your mind think about, what do you mean? I'm a gem. Why should I work for you? I've got all these other job opportunities. Even if you don't have other job opportunities, you need to act like you do, because you need to realize that your time is worth it. It is scarce, and you need to really make them feel like, well, why should I work for you? Why should we hire me? Well, why should I work for you? What do you mean? Like, you flip it, you got to control the frame in a way that's not too obvious, in a way that's like innocent, curious, truly wondering if they're a good fit for not. But look, I've done some research, but I would really like to continue to, that's why I'm here. I want to ask you questions. I want to see if, like, maybe I could be a good fit for you guys, maybe not. And I know what I offer and what I can do for you guys, but I really want to make sure, like, is this a good company I should give my time to? And then at that point, you're flipping it, you're controlling the frame, and now they're like, oh shoot, this guy's coming at it way differently, versus this other person's like, please hire me, I really need the job, I'll be a hard worker, versus like, maybe I'm not a good fit, I don't know, but maybe I would be. But it just all depends on how you guys are too. I think it goes both ways. I think that I gotta enjoy myself when I'm working here. I think you guys gotta take care of me, and I'll take care of you. And you kind of do that, and you kind of control the frame. Okay, so that's very important. And while you're doing that, you really want to make sure before the interview that you are preparing yourself by doing a rehearsal. Now, find a friend, find a family member, record with AI, and ask it to ask you questions until you master each question. If you don't know how to answer the question, have it tell you, hey, how can I answer this question? Then you can practice that. Or do a phone call with somebody and do a fake interview, or do a Zoom call. But you got to rehearse, you got to practice, and you got to go in there rehearsed. There absolutely will be a question that you did not rehearse and you're not prepared for. So the more rehearsal, the better. Keep that in mind. Just like any sport, bodybuilding, football, any sort of thing that you ever do, any sort of competition, there's always going to be some hiccups that come that you're not prepared for. But the more preparation that you do and the more practice, you can handle those little hiccups that come, because you're like, oh, I practiced for like so many what if scenarios, that this one that came, I was able to handle that and kind of take care of that. And even if you feel like, again, it's okay if you don't know what to say. It's okay to say, look, I don't know how to answer that. Or it's okay to say, look, can I have a second to think about that? Or it's okay to just think of something that might make sense, but don't lie. I've butchered interviews in my past where people ask me questions like, this is the most ironic mess up of my life. It was so funny. So I had a job interview years ago, and they're like, what does integrity mean to you? And back then I didn't know what that word meant. I just knew the basics, honesty. I didn't know what integrity meant. And I could have been honest and be like, hey, what does that mean? Can you tell me what that word means? Like, by definition, can you tell me, please? And they would have probably appreciated that. Like, oh, it means honesty. Oh, okay, why don't you just ask me that? And I could have been into the whole thing. And I could have been like, hey, I just didn't know what that word meant. Then they would have been like, oh, this guy was being honest that he didn't know what the word meant. But ironically, which I did not know that word, I was like, made up some random answer to the question, and they're like, this guy is so dumb. He did not know what the word integrity meant. That means he lied in the interview. Good question to ask on their end. And because I technically lied, or I pretended like I knew, they're like, nah, we're not hiring this guy. He just failed the simple question of what is integrity. He's going to lie. So I thought that was funny. I didn't know what that word meant until like later. And I was like, oh my gosh, makes sense why I didn't get the interview. But if someone asks you a question you don't know, you can simply just say, look, I don't really know what that means. Can you rephrase it? Okay, I don't know how to answer that, to be honest. Can I think about it? Can we come back to it? And then can I take some time to think? Stuff like that. And it's okay to just pause and be like, you know what? I really was thinking of this one time back in the day. This isn't really related to the job, but I did have an experience that I think is relatable. This is something I did outside of work, and I think that'll apply to this. And you can do that. You can take outside experiences and connect it to a work experience, and you can do that. You can be creative with things. Let's say you don't have a lot of job history, and they're going to ask you, tell me the last time in your last previous job that XYZ happened. You can say, look, can I take a second to think about that? Okay, so this didn't really happen in my job, but I was working with a friend and this happened, and this is how I can apply it to this, and something like that. You can always weave things together. Okay. So these are the last few steps that will help you succeed in your interview. Research your dress attire. Whatever the job is, whether it's casual, formal, pretty fancy, or extremely fancy, you got to know what you're getting yourself into, and you always want to dress just a little bit higher than what is required, just a little bit. For example, if you know that it's like super casual construction, wear something nice like this. Wear some jeans, boots, maybe a nice polo, or perhaps a button-down polo. Dress nice. If you show up to a construction site wearing a suit and tie, it's too much. And I think you'll get laughed at anyway. But if you're going to like a sales thing where it's like, yeah, you're dealing with sharp people, professionals, yeah, wear a suit, dress up for that. That's totally fine. If you don't have access to that, then dress as nicely as you possibly can. Go to the store, buy some new clothes. Do the best you can to get what you can at the meantime, because I get that. I get it. Sometimes you're looking for a job and you're like, how am I supposed to dress nice if I don't have the income? I got to get the job first to dress nice. And it's like this cycle. Okay, I get that. So maybe go to some like Goodwill, some sort of thrift store, find something super cheap that looks nice, and do your best. And what's more important than what you wear is how you feel. I think that's the most important thing. But yes, it's important, because if you showed up in like holes in your shirt and stuff, sleeveless shirt, but you felt confident, yeah, that's great, but they're going to look at that and they're going to judge based on the clothes. So you do want to have nice clothes. You want to make sure your hair is nice. You want to make sure your beard is trimmed and taken care of. Go to a barbershop if you haven't. If you want to, you can get a nice haircut like the day before. Don't do it the same day. Maybe even get a barbershop a few days before, in case they make a mistake, because you don't want to have a mistake of a haircut going into your interview. And buy some new clothes at the thrift store. dress nicely, smell good, chew some gum before the interview, or get some breath spray or some Tic Tacs or something. Because I'm telling you, you're in an interview with somebody and you're speaking to them and you're talking for a long time, you better brush your dang teeth. They're going to smell that. And if you're stuck in a room and you're saying the best things that sound really nice, but your breath is disgusting, it's freaking rank, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going through their mind. Think about what you would be thinking. Is this guy telling me the truth? This guy can't even brush his dang teeth. This guy has rotting teeth and rotting breath. Do you really think he's going to be good at this job? He can't even brush his own damn teeth. Like, they're thinking all these things. But if you have nice breath, they're either not going to think about it or they're going to be like, wow, this guy smells really good. I would say you want to have some nice cologne. If you come in the room and you smell like good, really good, it's gonna change their state. They're gonna be impressed. Wow, this guy smells really nice, and it's gonna make them feel impressed. If it's a female, that she might be captivated by that. Think about it. It's not gonna help you win the interview, but it's definitely gonna do something. So definitely have maybe cologne, good breath, and look clean. These are the last two steps here, or last step before I give you some actionable steps you can do today. This one is pretty dang important, but you want to make sure that you maintain eye contact. When you come in, you want to look them in the eye for like 2-3 seconds, and then that's it, break it. Hey, nice to meet you. Smile. Do not forget to smile. Shake the hand tough, good, nice and firm. Come on, classic, but do it. Smile, talk to them, and if they ask you a question, you have to look at them and answer the question for like 2 or 3 seconds. Just think 2 to 3 second eye connection, and then you can move on. You can talk about it and kind of be up in your head. Okay, like, oh, that's a great question. So the first thing that I was thinking of was the one time that I did this. I went to the store. I went here. I remember. It was a fun time because we talked, we did this, that the person was working with me, you're smiling, you're using hand gestures, you're doing your thing, you maintain eye contact for a couple seconds, you break it, you talk, you think, It has to be natural. So maybe you can practice with friends and stuff and just notice where do your eyes go, because some people overdo it. They just look at the eyes the whole time and then they just never break eye contact and they're just talking and talking and then they're doing this the whole time. And it's like people get weirded out. Like, this guy's fake. He's trying too hard. It's just weird. So you do want to talk. You want to look at eye contact every so often, and then you break it. You kind of think. Oh, that's a good question. Let me think. If they ask you a question, and you're answering it, and you're looking at them, and you start doing this, you're lying or you're unconfident. So that's huge. Pay attention to how your eyes are when you're talking to friends, so you can kind of pay attention. When do I look at them in the eyes? When do I break eye contact? And I know that sounds like a lot to think about, but it's real. Because you want to, if your adrenaline's pumping, you're not going to be naturally in the state where you're looking away. Like, pay attention to how you speak to your mom, your sister, something like that, your brother, and when you're in that moment, you're kind of excited. But if you can remember that, you can practice these techniques. Look in the eye for a little bit, look up, break eye contact, come back, talk, smile, do this. And most importantly, don't take yourself too seriously. Have a little bit of fun. Smile with the interview, joke around, be serious. Like, most people are sociable. You might be very analytical, but you got to be more sociable, because they're going to remember how they feel more than they're going to remember what you said. And that's very important. So be sociable, be likable, and sometimes you can get away with saying some stuff that's stupid, as long as like you're vibing with them and they're cool and you're laughing. And then at that point they're like, dang, I just like the guy. I just like him. And then it doesn't really matter exactly what you say, but how you say it. That's more important. So how you say is important. They're all important. Everything's important, but human connection is the most important thing. Just remember that. That's what they want to feel. Is this person a human or a robot? Does this person have human connection? You might even disagree with me and think that, in engineering they don't care, but no, man, you got to be super reasonable and personable, and what matters too. But are you a people person? That's what they really care about. Can I work with this person? So we're gonna end it with some actionable steps. Make sure that you follow up even after your interview. You want to call them. You want to follow up again. Hey, Did you guys consider the interview? Just want to see how everything's going. Is there any next steps? Any next steps that I need to be thinking about to be prepared to work with you guys? Always assume and be confident that you have the job. And fortune is in the follow-up. If you don't follow up after the interview, you're missing out. You have to call them. You got to follow up. You got to go in person. Hey, just wanted to reach out. Don't use the word follow-up. Just wanted to reach out, see how everything was, how the interview was. Is there going to be a second interview? When do I start working with you guys? Is there any next steps to get me prepared to work with you guys? Like, assume it. Be charming about it. Do phone calls, call, and then make sure you're calling them, because what's more important, calling these 100 that we talked about or calling these 4 that you sat with? The 4 is really what's most important, but of course you should be throwing in more applications as well, just in case the 4 don't work out. But the 4 is more important than the 100 because they know your face and you went through the interview process, so it's a higher chance of you getting the job. So action steps that you can take today: go follow up with some of your job interviews if you've put some in. Go to some businesses, maybe a couple businesses this week, and go knock them and go try to talk to some owners and find out when they're there. And go get a haircut. Go shave your beard. Go create some resumes in LLM today, in your AI. And just start taking some steps. Those are some easy things you could do this week. And start submitting a few applications and create some resumes, and boom. Don't forget to follow up, and good luck. Happy hunting.